The year is 1998, one of the most coveted years in fashion history. Many designers would make a statement with their creations during this time, but one was sure to stick out. Raf Simons' Spring-Summer 98, Black Palms. Considered by many as Raf Simons' best work, Black Palms was said to be inspired from the poem Paradise Lost by John Milton. The poem is based on the biblical story of the fall of man, with the temptation of Adam and Eve by the fallen angel Satan and their expulsion from the Garden of Eden. A quote from the poem says, "Never can true reconcilement grow where wounds of deadly hate have pierced so deep." Deeply inspired by poetic literature, Raf Simons described his collection in the words of John Milton, calling it Black Palms. But how does the fall of man relate to a fashion show? It's clear to see during this collection that Raf was searching for a feeling, having casted only skateboarders and nightclub goers, avoiding the usual male models as seen in other fashion runways. Raf Simons was searching for a way to visualize what could be perceived as a man that had fallen, or what some would perceive as a man at his rawest state. To get a better understanding of Raf Simons' goal, we need to understand what had come before Raf's legendary collection of Black Palms. The early 90s was a time of suit and tie for menswear, and while Raf references this classic silhouette in his collection, it's clear to see how his influences changed the fashion scene forever. Jean-Paul Gaultier's 1997 Autumn-Winter collection is a great example of the use of classic suit and tie silhouette whilst having its own unique spin on things. This collection was said to protest the average look of menswear shown with the use of bright colors, interesting hairstyles, and occasional tattoos printed on the models. Raf Simons' creation of Black Palms innovated some of the same motifs in his work, however, refining them in their own beautiful display of less structured clothing and relating to the idea of the fall of man. As we can see, the same idea of a tattoo shown in the Black Palms collection, where the entry model has a large tattoo of a black palm tree inked into his back. Another example of the tattoo motif can be seen on a separate model with stars tattooed onto his chest. Upon doing some research, I found a quote from the poem Raf had referenced. "A broad and ample road, whose dust is gold, and pavement stars as starts to thee appear soon in the galaxy. That Milky Way which mightly as a circling zone thou seest powdered with stars." The way that I perceive this quote is of a man who is traveling a road of dust and stars into the Milky Way. It's quite possible to think of this as a metaphor for a man trying to achieve righteousness after falling to his lowest point. It's not clear if Raf meant to reference this quote directly, but you could definitely make the argument that he was. The actual construction of the garments used in the Black Palms show were very dark, taking advantage of Raf Simons' infamous gothic appeal on fashion as well as contrasting the pale bodies of the models wearing the clothes. Many looks from this collection feature open silhouettes displaying skinny outlines of clubgoers and skateboarders, again relating to the underlying theme of man at its rawest state. So where does Raf go from here? He's just released the most head-turning collection in menswear history, and how has this affected menswear as a whole? Just 3 years later, Raf Simons would release another collection just as exciting as his first during Autumn-Winter of 2001. This collection strays from the usual design of suit and tie silhouettes, but doesn't shy away from Raf Simons' classic design motifs in keeping the punk and gothic elements combined in his work. Many pieces of this collection feature oversized garments which sit under the waistline of the models and drape over many layers of clothes. This collection is quite intricate and has enough information to be in a video of its own, but that's for another time. Following the release of this collection, we can see the influence of Raf's creation on modern-day examples of oversized silhouettes and motifs on Raf Simons' design. While some could say it's a reach to point out the similarities of 2001 Raf Simons with modern-day Balenciaga, I think a valuable point can be made how the creative director of Balenciaga and Raf Simons were both inspired by Margiela from the start. Interview Magazine writes, using Margiela as their jumping off point, Simons and Demna share a fascination with place on proportion. They take archetypal items and either shrink or enlarge them to their seasonal whims. In any case, it's interesting to see how one person's creation can have an influence on something 20 years later. It's important to realize in fashion how in most cases creating and distributing clothes is a game of innovation whilst realizing what has worked in the past. Through the debut release of Black Palms, I think Raf Simons created one of the most influential collections that fashion will ever see, and it continues to inspire creators that are generations apart.